Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ayeQ Answers podcast. Super excited to have Greg Guido with us today. Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Very, very, very good. Very good. Excited for our talk today. We're going to be talking about the future of the B2B CRO. What, when, and why. And I have a feeling there are quite a few CROs that may be listening to this podcast. But beyond that, more of the C-suite in B2B, because we're talking about like when does the B2B organization need a CRO and what are the capabilities that that role needs to bring to the team. It's I've heard a lot, especially with kind of the rise of RevOps, is how that role is evolving. So Greg, let me give you a little bit of Greg's background here. So Greg is an accomplished global revenue leader, executive coach, and venture capital investor with extensive experience driving growth and innovation in B2B organizations. He is the founder of Fortivex, a custom software development company dedicated to delivering tailored digital solutions to meet the evolving needs of modern businesses. Greg's career includes leading high-performing teams and scaling revenue operations across diverse industries, leveraging his strategic insight and expertise in business transformation. He's also a member of the inaugural cohort of the groundbreaking Chief Revenue Officer program at the University of Chicago, further solidifying his commitment to advancing leadership and revenue growth strategies in dynamic markets. So hugely qualified, Greg, to be talking to us on this topic. So I'm excited about our conversation. So let's just go ahead and get started. What are you seeing about the kind of trends of the CRO or how that role is becoming defined?
Well, I think a lot of it is getting defined now in real time, right? So the advent of the CRO kind of happened in that whole Salesforce, HubSpot, SaaS environment was kind of the inaugural CRO, and it's starting to take hold in broader context. So within the last several years, you've started to see companies adopt a CRO. The challenge is people are saying, oh, we need a CRO, and oftentimes not knowing what actually is a CRO. And they're confusing a VP of sales and a CRO. What's interesting about the Chief Revenue Officer program at the University of Chicago is we put a lot of structure and rigor around what is this role, what are the disciplines required, of the functional areas that you play in, and it's been really cool to kind of put a framework around it. This is what the role is, this is what the role does, and of course there's nuances from every company, right? A consumer-based company, maybe marketing sits outside the CRO. But in a B2B company, marketing is probably going to sit in the purview of the CRO. So there's a lot of nuance that can be shuffled and played. But the one common theme is that your CRO is not your VP of sales. So that's an interesting little trend to unpack and see as things evolve. Um, this operational leader, not this sales leader, is at the helm of the revenue organization in your company.
So it's not just the best sales guy becomes the
I,
VP of sales.
I I sure hope not. It's pretty analytical. There's operations, there's analytics, there's a lot of things going on there. And don't confuse me here, right? I've come up through the sales org, as many have, and there's gonna need to be a customer facing component, but the person who runs the best deal cycle isn't necessarily the best fit for that CRO role.
Yeah, to get to this scalable, aligned organization takes a different set of skills, really. I've heard, a lot of kind of this visioning of the future and the CROs coming out of the RevOps function as a path to CRO leadership, because that RevOps function is so much, has so much of that operations and scale and analytics and process that is absolutely required to get this engine running at this level.
Yeah, I mean, the CRO can come from any of the functions, right? Whether it's RevOps, sales, customer success, marketing, anyone can kind of move across a various aisle because it all fits into that ecosystem. So obviously you need the right skill set, the right mindset, the ability to bring people together and to have that holistic view. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of those who have come up through RevOps may be in prime position to accomplish the actual goal of a high performing CRO, maybe more so than a sales leader, a VP of sales who is really focused on that piece of the revenue function.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, what are the characteristics of a company when they get to that point where they need this kind of more strategic operational role, that you've, kind of defined as the CRO?
Oh, well, so there's no hard and fast, it's like think of it like sales stages, right? A gating to go from one sales stage to the next. But I can unequivocally promise you that if you're a, $1.5 million company that is still trying to find product market fit and trying a lot of different things, you're probably not ready to have a CRO in place. The reality is you probably have some maturity around your sales function, your marketing function, your customer success function, and you're looking to drive efficiency and organizational structure and rigor around these. And that's when you kind of bring in that visionary leader to scale, right? So it's more of a scale situation, a scale up situation that you're going to be looking at a CRO to drive your next phase of growth. Are you going to look to, oh, we had a VP of sales that got us from 0 to 5 million and another one that got us from 5 to 20 million. Now we're going to hire another VP of sales. Well, no, you're probably in that right spot that you can say, okay, this VP of sales with the right guidance, the right mentorship, the right operating environment that a CRO could bring can then achieve that next milestone, maybe get you to 50 million.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what about culturally? Is there something within the organizations that you work with that you see, hey, this is the point at which the company needs that more strategic role?
Yeah, so as part of our program at University of Chicago, Warren from the CRO Collective came in and spoke to that group, and kind of interesting as we think about this. My point of view is shaped by a lot of other points of view and experience, right? So I give credit to Warren on that, but direct quote from him that. A company is CRO ready when they are culturally, functionally, and operationally aligned around the
Mm,
customer. So those things need to exist to ingest this function. Without it, the CRO is almost set up to fail, right? So there
mhm,
needs to be a bit of a customer obsession. So culturally, RevOps actually can change the culture of an organization. The way the organization talks to each other internally, the way they collaborate, how they share success from marketing into sales. There has to be an appetite for process and change, right? This is not, especially in a startup environment, maybe silo based. People do things the way they've done it because it works. Well, now we're going to mature. We need to grow up. It's kind of like a teenager going away to college. They got all this freedom, and then all of a sudden they need to still figure out how to go to class, or they're not going to graduate, right? So
mhm,
it's just one of those times where it's time for the organization to mature, but they need to have that aha moment that I want to do this organizationally to realize the value of it.
mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. I'd love your opinion on kind of what comes first. We work at ayeQ, we have we're able to implement a RevOps discipline and all the analytics and stuff in, 5 to 15 business days. It's a turnkey RevOps. And we work with a lot of new CROs because the CRO will find himself or herself in the position of, hey, I'm coming into this role. I need to create a maturity and a discipline here, and I don't have what I need. I can't see what I need to see. My process isn't end to end. I don't know how to optimize my marketing spend, or I don't know where my sales productivity is down. I can't track my conversion rates properly. My forecast accuracy is not there. And so they need this RevOps discipline very, very rapidly, right? Because the CRO has what, a 12 to 18 month tenure on average for B2B SaaS companies.
Yeah.
And, and building that whole thing, as you know, from a RevOps perspective, to build that internally, I think the market estimate is 6 to 24 months if you actually ever get there, right? Because it's not easy. You have to have the right people, the right analysts, the right technology, the right logic, understanding the complexity of the data. You have to have all of that if you're going to try to build it internally. So, I mean, what do you see as far as, the kind of what comes first, the CRO or the discipline?
Well, oftentimes the CRO is going to come in because of a lack of discipline, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
CEO didn't say, "Oh, look at all this discipline we have now. I need someone to own it for me." The CEO is kind of looking at it and saying, "This thing's a mess. How do we wrangle it?" And by the way, we're going to put this person in a role, and they're going to have basically 18 months to deliver value, or we're going to cut ties, right? And that's just the nature of the role. So as a CRO stepping into that seat, you got to have a plan, have a playbook, have
Mm-hmm.
a documented set of things that have worked in the past, and be flexible, right? It's not everything is gonna, square peg, square hole here. We're gonna have to modify and adjust and move. You may have to work with different CRMs or different KPIs specific to an industry that you're stepping into, something along those lines. But come in with a plan and take action. What I love about what you guys are doing at ayeQ is the speed, right? Because there's speed to value there, and that matters. That matters when every day counts. How quickly can we get a set of eyes on this thing, on this process, and understand this is what I need to change? Because at the end of the day, it's taking a look at what exists, analyzing the trend, and making a decision, trusting what the data tells you, and moving forward in a course corrected manner, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's kind of go down that stream of thinking, and tell us about the objectives. Tell us about the KPIs. What are you seeing as, the obvious usual suspects?
Yeah, I mean, customer acquisition cost, growth rate, forecast accuracy. These are all things that your board wants to see. The great equalizer, accretion margin. That's the great equalizer across the corporate function, understanding what that accretion margin is, and that's how you can kind of normalize all these metrics that could sway one way or another, right? So this kind of neutralizes the playing field a little bit to determine the impact of your involvement on these particular metrics. You could list 25, 30, 40 different KPIs, but understand that you need to come in with your, 5, 10, 12, whatever it happens to be, that your first dashboard should be built off of, right? And
Mhm.
once you get that, you can start tweaking, modifying, and adjusting from there.
Yeah. So accretion margin. How often do you find walking into an organization that you work with that they know their accretion margin across all their revenue functions?
Oftentimes, it's a foreign concept, and
Yep.
people just don't understand it.
Yeah.
So
And so,
it
I
takes a
mean,
little bit of education.
just to simplify that for the audience, at the basic level, it's what is the ROI of everything that you are using to grow your function, right? How much is each of your investments contributing back to the company, right? What is the accretive value?
Yep.
But I'm going to put a shameless plug in here for ayeQ. It's like you have to you the connection end to end of the investment you put in your growth function must be tied to how much revenue comes out. It has to be tied to bookings. And so when we have helped companies optimize their resources, I'm an engineer. When I first stepped into an executive marketing role, I nearly lost my head, right? Because I'm like, how do you guys even know what's working? Like, how do you know you need to do more of that in channel A? How do you know? And so many of the leading indicators like clicks and views and likes and even more that we have now with social media, it's like that does not give me my accretive margin, right? That does not tell me how my investment in marketing has contributed to closed bookings. And that is so critical. We see so many solutions out there that are, hey, here's your forecasting. Hey, here's your, marketing analytics. Here's your website analytics. But the complexity, and this gets at developing that RevOps function in general, is the complexity of being able to tie those things together is very, very difficult, right? The data model is very, very difficult. So trying to even to try to build that internally, I see so often it's like it's the marketing to sales. I don't know how marketing is contributing to sales, and it's because there's so much breakdown between the marketing function and the sales function, not only from end-to-end process, but the systems people are using perpetuate those silos, right? Even looking at your, the connection between your CRM and your marketing automation system. I see more and more often today, Greg, people using things like Salesforce for CRM and HubSpot for marketing automation, right? And, or moving from Salesforce to Zoho, right? And it's like, in the B2B scale world, that would have, even a year ago, that would have been unheard of. But now people are able to use them as they should be used for these transactional systems. And they're using platforms like ayeQ to get the strategic insight, right? No matter what is in your tech stack, you have to know what is accretive. I use a sales productivity tool. Great. Is it helping? Right? Is it accretive?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where that end-to-end analytics is really, really key. So
It's interesting because there's a lot in the revenue function that makes us feel good, right?
mhm,
We identified a new opportunity. We got more followers on our LinkedIn page. We did this, all these things that make us feel good. But feeling good doesn't pay the bills. So
mhm,
we really need to have a good sense of maybe the stuff that makes us feel good isn't actually generating the return we want. And that's the stuff you need to be able to uncover.
mhm. Yeah, and I will say, for the marketing leaders out there who may be listening to this, or CROs who are grooming a marketing leader in their organization, being able to talk this way, being able to speak the metrics that the rest of the executive team values is super, super important for the marketing leader. And we've worked with a lot of marketing leaders, who at the beginning of the process was like, my CEO is asking me for these metrics and I have no idea how to produce them. That's that when you were talking about culturally people, it changes the way people talk to each other. When they have this enabling system that allows everybody to speak factually versus opinion-based, it absolutely changes the culture. It's so in a very positive way, because everybody understands this is what I'm doing. This is why it matters. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off track from the CRO perspective, but it really matters for the CRO. The CRO needs that infrastructure if he or she is actually going to get to the holy grail of accretive margin. Now that we've kind of defined what that is, that's tough. It's not like you can whip that up, on the back of an envelope or, in a spreadsheet, the mega spreadsheet. So we have companies out there that are listening to our podcast, that want some takeaways about as they move into this high velocity growth. Because I think your point is really well taken. When is that CRO needed? When is RevOps needed? Right? I mean, if you're working on 4 deals, you do not need RevOps, right? You
Yeah.
know what's happening. It is all RevOps and the CRO, as you said, are all about scale. How do we grow faster and efficiently, right? We don't do this anymore where we just throw a bunch of stuff, a bunch of salespeople and a bunch of dollars at marketing to grow the top line.
If
We don't do that
sitting
anymore.
there and saying, can I hire 10 more salespeople and get 10x what my one salesperson's doing? The answer is no, right? You're gonna have
Mhm.
diminishing returns on that. So if the answer is how do we scale? How do we grow quickly? The answer is putting the right people in place to optimize your process, to find the bottlenecks, to break down those barriers. And that comes with a holistic view of your revenue function.
Mhm. So, give us some takeaways for the CROs who are listening. What are your words of wisdom, Greg, as they're like, I am a CRO, I'm a new CRO, I'm potentially a CRO, or I want the skills to become a CRO. What are some of your takeaways for that?
Oh, first and foremost, it's a lonely world. Find your tribe. Find your people to lean on,
Mhm.
be it through a CRO collective or another CRO organization or an education program like I've gone through at the University of Chicago, which comes with a network of like-minded individuals. But find your tribe. You're going to bounce ideas. You're going to share ideas. You've got, this trusted network of people who are living and breathing and seeing and doing what you're doing when no one else in your organization does. That's
Mhm.
that's the first thing is find your people. Have a playbook. Document stuff that's worked. Document stuff that hasn't worked, and understand when you come in on day one, how can I get time to value? Right? Look at your preferred tech stack, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only tech stack you can work with, but it's a baseline to start from and grow from. Right? Um, Managed metrics. At the end of the day, data doesn't lie. And there are things that, as individual contributors in sales, or maybe as a marketing leader, or as a customer success leader, now you've moved into this CRO role that maybe you liked or didn't like or kind of liked. At the end of the day, you're now in this role that you have to trust the data and understand that the data is telling you a story and use the right tools and surround yourself with people that can help you interpret that data and make business-based decisions following what the data is telling you. And align your team. Your team has to be aligned, right? So you're stepping into this role, you've got cultural alignment across the organization. Support team alignment. Don't pit marketing against sales. At the end of the day, marketing creates demand, sales closes deals, not the other way around. So make sure that everyone is beating to the same drum and it's going to achieve success.
Fantastic. Well, completely appreciate your perspective and what you've been able to communicate to our audience. I think this is such a fascinating topic to me. Um, and tell us about you, Greg, what you're doing and how folks can reach out to you.
Yeah, so I've just founded FortiveX, a custom software development firm. You can reach me at fortivex.com, which is FORTIVEX.com. Variety of custom solutions to meet client needs, right? Like we're pretty flexible, which is a really cool spot to be in when you're not kind of bound by this wall or that wall, that we can take a customer use case and build an application that meets their needs, both web and mobile. So we've got a really cool spot in the market to play in. We work with a really nice crew of partners, ISV partners. So really excited to be launching that and taking that to market here in 2025.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to be cheering. You'll be hugely successful as your past history is a good predictor of future outcomes. So I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And would love to have you back here when you can come back and tell us how things have gone and how you've built it. I think that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely looking forward to it. And thanks for having me. This was a ton of fun.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.